All right, we should be live. Bree, can you confirm? Well, it's great to have you on here. I'll just go ahead and introduce you real quick. I've got Andrea Waltz here, and she's an expert in training, marketing, team building, coaching, and public speaking. She's based in Orlando, Florida. She's the founder of Courage Crafters from 2007 to current. Success in 100 Pages founder from 2018 to present. Breakthrough radio guest expert from 2011 to 2018. Fenton Waltz, APT Retail. That was 8 years a while back. Mm-hmm. And she's the co-author of the best-selling book, Go for No. Yes is the destination. No is how you get there. It's an Amazon #1 sales and selling bestseller, which has remained in the top 50 sales books in the last 10 years and over 1,000 5-stars. She launched her own training company at the age of 24 and is a speaker, member of the Direct Selling Women's Alliance. She was named one of the 25 sales experts you should follow on Twitter by HubSpot and 25 sales influencers to follow on Twitter and Salesforce and Live Hive. I actually reached out to you because I think we were at the same event with Cody Bateman, and I spoke there, you spoke there, or you were there, and you guys handed me this book, and it was sitting on the shelf right here. And one day I just picked it up, and I read the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, it's a quick read, and I like the fact that I go out and get great people like you. So this book, how many did I just buy?
You just bought a couple cases. You just bought like 200 books. 200
books. So if you guys haven't read this book yet, I mean, she's got a lot of books, The $1 Million Year, Fear Factory, Go for No for Network Marketing, the Diamond Line. But this is a book, though, that literally I coach my guys every day, and I'm like, did you go for no? Did we go for no? We don't decide. And I got a million questions, but
good.
I wanted to at least give you the intro. I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and talk to us about how you got started in business and sales, and how you came up with these ideas for these books, and just where you're going, what your goals are.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of weird to think about what my actual job is now, Tommy, because I kind of joke that like I wake up every day and figure out how I'm going to help people fail more. In other words, like how I'm going to help people hear no more often. That is my mission literally every day. And I mean, who would think that would be like an actual job, and who would even think that, I had no idea. I mean, I went to school, I went to college, I got a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. I wanted to be a crime scene investigator before crime scene investigation was like actually a thing, before there was like a TV show about it. That was my dream. And while I was doing that, I was working for Lens Crafters, the big eyeglass retailer. And I had kind of worked my way up. And then upon graduation, I really wanted to get a spot on the crime scene investigation team, and there were basically none. And they were like, hey, you can work for free for a couple years as an intern, and then maybe see if something will open up. And then in the meantime, Lens Crafters is over here going like, you're amazing. We're going to promote you. You could be running like a store on your own, in no time. And actually I was really interested in making money by that time. I mean, I was just done with school. So I went full time with Lens Crafters. I worked my way up. I got into training, I was doing like their 2-day orientation training. And I was really getting interested in like customer service philosophies and sales training and all of these things. And I met my now husband, Richard, at Lens Crafters. And he was the one who basically taught me the Go for No philosophy and told me the Go for No story, which is kind of the central story in our book. And I completely like fell in love with it. Like I knew that everyone and anyone needed to hear this message. And so Richard actually convinced me that we should quit our jobs, launch a company where we did speaking and training and taught the messages that we were passionate about, the sales concepts we were passionate about, the customer service stuff that we wanted to teach. And so that's what we did. Like I was about 25 at that time. I quit and I was cold calling Fortune 1000 retailers, like the people that you see in the mall, literally cold calling them with no experience, no background, no, like a horrible website, all of it. And just, we literally did go for no in our own business when we launched.
I love that story. It's like I teach a few things. I do an orientation. I do a 3-hour orientation. We just had 19 guys graduate yesterday. We took them bowling. It was a blast. And it's the first class that every single one of them from apprenticeship up all passed. The average score was 91% on their test. And, I tell guys all the time, like, you don't decide if it's good for the customer, they decide. Like some people go, oh, they wouldn't be interested in financing. And I'm like, rich people use financing all the time. It's called other people's money. It's inflation going on. So, I just love the concept because I used to work at Dillard's in the women's shoes department. Ooh. And, that was a pain, but I wish I would have read that book back then because literally I think that's the premise of the book is when he's at the apparel store selling, it was men's clothes, right? Yeah, exactly. And by the way, so that you working in the shoe department at Dillard's, that is like true character building right there. There is nothing that will build your character faster than selling shoes. I did it myself at Nordstrom. So it's hardcore. So that is the central story. In fact, it's something that happened to Richard. He was he was young. This goes back a long time ago now. And he was selling suits for a living. The guy walked in, said he wanted to buy an entire wardrobe of clothing. Rich has this great sale. And back in those days, it was about $1,100, which was a lot. Like that was a lot. And the district manager, a guy named Harold, was there, watched him have this great sale. And then at the end of it, finally came over and asked my husband, like, you had this great sale. Out of curiosity, what did that customer say no to? And Richard had to admit that the customer didn't say no to anything, that literally like everything he showed this guy, the guy basically said yes to. And then Harold asked him the really important question, which is kind of the key. He said, well, then how did you know he was done? And that's when Rich had to admit that he was the one who shut the sale down. And Harold basically told him, he said, I watched you sell, you're not half bad, but your fear of the word no is going to kill you. If you could just learn to get over that, I think you could be one of the great ones. And so my husband always says, I didn't know if I had what it took to succeed, but I knew I had what it took to fail. Like I knew I could hear no more often. I could just show more products to customers and let them decide. And he was like the award-winning salesman within a year. He got into management, he got into training. But here's the funny thing, Tommy, because when he told me that story, I actually was, in my mind, I was a superstar salesperson. Like customers loved me. I had like great rapport. But then when he told me that story, I had to get honest with myself. And I did. And I said, you know what? I don't like to hear no. I do shut the sale down. I do make assumptions, and I made assumptions kind of housed under the guise of customer service, like, oh, I'll decide for them. But really it wasn't customer service. It was just me not wanting to be told no. Yeah, you know what? I think all of us have a little bit of a fear of rejection at one point in our lives. I think I call them internal objections. And I see them all the time, and I tell my guys, I have a buddy of mine, and he's very good with the ladies. And we were in our mid-20s, and I watched him one night. I said, I don't understand it. And I watched him walk up to a group of gals, and he was talking to them for 5 minutes, and the next thing you know, they were laughing, and he walked away. And then it was another little group, and then finally, success for him or whatever. They went on a date or whatever. But the point that I realized when I watched him is, he almost felt like he was the prize, and he almost felt like, hey, if they don't want him, then shame on them. But he definitely got a lot of rejection, and he didn't look at it as rejection. He somehow disguised it, I think, in his head. It says their loss or whatever it might be. But I just love the fact that the odds are definitely in the favor of when you continue to get that. And I think the cool part of the story is that guy that walked in, and dealt with Richard, that guy might have bought $40,000 worth of stuff.
Totally.
I think you said 1,200. So he might have bought every pair of shoes, 10 pairs of the same pair of shoes, belts, jackets, whatever. But a lot of times we do decide for the clients. We do decide. I've heard so many of my technicians, now we're up to 360 people at the company, about 200 technicians. I hear them say, they'll never, we're done. That they weren't really happy. Like the bottom rubber, for example, that keeps the bugs out. Mm-hmm. Like that's something you don't really see till the door's moving. And I've seen the guys that, they weren't really happy about the last thing we offered. So, and I'm like, well, that's not doing them a favor. It's not. Why is it that salespeople decide? I don't understand it, but we do all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we do. And I think, listen, I mean, you can still be great and this could be an issue. That's what I found. And it is because I think kind of where I found myself, which was just, I really wanted to help people and I believed in my product and all of those things, but still we're biologically wired to not be rejected. I mean, that is just a fact. And I tell people, even when you get your mindset right, sometimes even physically, you can't stop the physical reaction. Like if you get a really bad kind of gut wrenching, that's why it's called gut wrenching, right? Rejection, it's going to sting. You're going to have a little bit of pain. And that is just evolution, protecting you. So the whole idea is we do have to kind of, really work on our mindset and really build it up to where it's you feel that feeling and you go it's okay. It's just the feeling that we're born with. And I'm not going to let this slow me down. I'm not going to let this stop me. This is just totally normal.
Yeah, I look at the best sales guys in the company, and sometimes I don't like the word sales because I feel like we're the best customer experience. And they don't mind the awkward silence. They don't love the word no. They don't mind when it's opposition. They don't mind those uncomfortable times where the customer, and when I watch the best of the best, it's almost like they don't even pay attention to it. They just glide right over it. It's like a little hill for them just to get right over. It's not a big deal. And I always tell my guys, I'm like, they go, I can do that. It's so easy. And I go, no. What you don't understand is these guys have been trained in personality profiling, body language, eye contact, tonality. And they make it look easy is the problem because they know when to listen. They know when to shut up. They know when to ask questions. And they also know when to talk. They match behaviors. And some of the people are born with it. Some of the people just the way they were raised and they were really born with it. But yeah, I mean, how long does it take to really get – it's like a muscle. If you use it all the time, you're just used to it. How long do you think it takes? Because you went through it yourself. How long did it take you mentally to get over the rejection?
Totally. So I think it kind of varies for everybody. I mean, for me, it and I always joke I'm a pathological people pleaser. So it took me a while. But the more that I did it and teaching it too has taught me so much. And so now, I luckily am one of those people who are completely rejection doesn't faze me. Even the harshest criticism is just laughable because I've just reached this place where I've studied it and taught it for so long. So I think the cool thing though, is that when people read the book or they get told the story or they get taught the philosophy, it's kind of you can never undo that. It's once somebody's, shown you something, you're forever changed. And I think people forever remember oh, just go for it. So one of the things that we talk about, one of the things I teach a lot is just the idea of executing and go for no moments. And every business has these moments, whether you're a customer service rep on the phone with, a prospect, or you're following up with a customer, or you're talking to a customer and you're talking about what they're purchasing and maybe an upgrade and maybe something else. There's these moments where you have the opportunity to execute and ask the next question. And if we can remember in our head, oh yeah, I was just told to go for no, without all the baggage of what does this mean? And what if they get mad? And what if they say no? Just execute on those moments. That's so key. And people can start to do that right away. And the faster and the more they execute on those go for no moments, I think the faster they can really change and become someone who like feels like a different person. But here too is the like interesting thing about this. And this is like the challenge, I think, with all mindset stuff, that go for no is like, it's a principle, or it's a philosophy based on a timeless principle. And the principle really is, like the fundamental principle is, you can't have success without failure. You can't get more yeses without getting more nos. Like they're opposite sides of the same coin. That is like the principle. And so if you say like, okay, if that's the principle, then what's the attached behavior to that? And the attached behavior to that is really asking. So we have to like help people with that mindset and help them remember. But the funny thing is that when you teach people, when you look at like any business, look at like McDonald's, right? The classic go for no is, do you want fries with that? Like that's just classic.
Or popcorn with a movie theater.
Or popcorn in the movie theater. And machines, and this is like this is kind of sad, right? Machines, AI, machines who are trained to ask every single time, because they don't have any emotional baggage. They don't have any like issues going on, who just ask, hey, do you want this? Oh, do you want to upgrade this? Right? We see it all the time when we're like online and we're checking out from a store and there's a pop-up window that comes up and asks. Those machines are incredibly efficient and they're incredibly good at generating revenue. Why? Because they ask every time. They don't prejudge. They don't make assumptions. They don't decide, oh, this person's already spent too much. They're never going to say yes to this, right? And so I think for go for no, it's try to do the behavior of asking as much as possible, and the mindset will come along, but you start with the mindset. I think
you hit the nail on the head with the ask. I always tell my guys my favorite 3 letters, ASK. Like I've literally had I've had the guys go to the front of the room with several, hundreds of people on, and I'm like, what was the breakthrough? And they're like, we followed the 8-step process and we just had to ask. And it's so simple. It sounds like easy, you go for no. But it's not. And I look at a lot of consultants. I've hired a lot of consultants, and through the years, I know there's a consultant that actually, when he went into call centers, he would train them to make a certain amount of calls. And if they didn't do it, they could never move up in the company. And the most successful ones, it was an exact equation of whoever made the most calls was always the highest in sales. Mm-hmm. And it's literally like just effort applied is output. And you're right. There's a certain ratio that people don't. I don't know if they understand it or not, but
yeah. And so there's 2 pieces to it also, because like on one hand, and I never want to like completely drill it down to, oh, go for no is just a numbers game. I mean, because one, I didn't say this. This was actually somebody in our other Go for No for Network Marketing book. She says go for no is a numbers game, but people aren't numbers, right? Because we don't want to treat people like numbers. Which I completely 100% agree with. So there is this numbers game aspect to it, right? That is a part of it. But then also there's something that you can't teach. You were starting to allude to this earlier. You were like, hey, people get really good. They get good at watching for body language, buying signals. They learn to shut up. They start listening. And a lot of that can't be taught. A lot of that it comes with experience. And I think also, too, though, one of my favorite words along with go for no is just courage. And it's building the courage to say, I have to be an advocate for this person, for our product, because they are scared. They're scared of making the wrong decision. They're scared that they're going to get screwed over by, another supplier or contractor. They've had bad experiences with, other home service companies or providers or whatever who've done bad work, or they lied to them or whatever. So that's the unfortunate thing about sales, right? Is we're like always fighting that kind of this uphill battle of reputation. But we have to so that experience is being that advocate where you're helping people. I like to say off the fence of indecision. Like, listen, I know you didn't plan to spend this much on this thing. This problem happened to you this weekend. You weren't planning it. And now you're looking at an entire new garage or an entire new HVAC system, and you weren't even planning it, right? But here's why. Here are the 3 reasons why, you should do this now. And that kind of salesmanship, and that is all go for no. I mean, that does take some experience.
Yeah, what I tend to do is I spend a lot of time in the garage door myself. I was a technician. And one day this lady asked me, and probably right around my mom's age, is, would you be telling me this if I was your mom? I mean, what would you do to your mom's door? And so one of my training is when you go back home to your market, we're in, I think, 16 states now. It's hard to believe, we're growing so fast. But I'm like, go back home and find the person you love the most, other than who you live with, your wife or husband. If it's your uncle that raised you, if it's your grandpa, if it's your mom, whoever that is, I want you to go and do a complete overhaul. Make the garage door perfect. Do everything with the best parts. And like, it's not super expensive. So we go through this process, and I'm like, that way you can look at clients and say, this is what I did for my grandfather because I love him. He raised me. And this is exactly what I'm recommending to you. Yes, I did this for my loved one. I believe in the process. I believe in the parts. I believe in the company. So I think a lot of it too goes to the fact of but if it was a real estate agent that was flipping the house, I might not want to do the lifetime parts and some of the best, do what's best for the client if you were in their shoes. And I've always said, diagnose the person before you diagnose the problem. Is find out what's going on for them. Find out what is best. Best for one person might not be the best for another person. And, I got a lot of training on financing, and there's 4 types of finance buyers, but it almost says everybody's a finance buyer under the right circumstances if you can make it appealing to them,
Right. Yeah.
I watched this guy. He did 12 million in sales last year at an HVAC shop. And I watched him on the phone close a $32,000 sale. And he goes, you know what? He goes, interest rates are so high on credit cards now. They're 20, 22%. He's like, we've got financing. We brought it all the way down to 10%. Same as cash. It's a 16-month program. And it's crazy. But it made it sound so much better. 10% to me is a high number. But when you drop it down from 22%, it all of a sudden sounds great, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and that kind of conversation, like that comes back to just having courage to share that instead of just talking yourself out of it.
Yeah. And I've seen today, I was talking at our meeting. We have a 7 a.m. on Thursdays with the entire staff. And I called up a guy named Steve, and I said, Steve goes through a checklist and marks every single thing. He doesn't skip the checklist. He's got a routine, and that's what we all should be doing. I got a lot of stuff here, questions, but what's the difference between these two, go for no and go for no marketing?
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up, actually. So go for no is the original, the smaller one, fable that really kind of teaches it's a fun story, and it teaches like the fundamental principle of go for no and a couple strategies as well. So go for no for network marketing, we wrote in 2017. And the reason we even wrote it was that that particular industry is just, they very much gravitate toward go for no philosophies because a lot of their business is all about, having to talk to strangers, having to share about their products, about their opportunities. So network marketing is pretty big for us in that way. But also one of our biggest success stories is the co-author of that book. His name's Ray Higdon.
Yep.
And he talks about basically we spoke at his company's event years ago. He heard us, he bought our training materials, he read the book, and he's like, okay, well, I can do this. I'm just going to go for 20 no's a day. I'm going to talk to people everywhere all the time. I'm going to eat no's, drink no's, sleep no. Like, I'm just going to go for no all the time. And that's what he did. And he says to this day, like, a lot of people can't do this. They can't stomach it. They can't handle it. But he was highly, highly motivated. He was and I may be kind of screwing up the timeline of his story, but I mean, he was in debt. He was tired. He was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, he was in foreclosure. He had bill collectors chasing him, and he was like, I have got to turn my life around, and I'm going to do it by getting results in my company. And so he did. He got 20 no's a day, which gave him, as I said, you hear more no's, you're going to hear more yeses. Which catapulted him to the #1 earner in his organization. And he became very successful. He ended up starting his own company, training other people in direct sales and network marketing. And he talks about Go for No. And he talks a lot about really interesting concepts about no. And so we said, hey, Ray, do you want to, let's take the ideas in the original, but let's kind of blow them up and expand upon them from how you applied them in your business. So that's what that book is. So it is actually very different.
I love it. No, I'm going to go through that one. And then I got this.
Yes. Yes. You have everything we've created. Yeah. So
I'm a big fan. What can I say?
And that one we created during the pandemic. So there you go.
So what I want to do is we talked to you and Gianni, kind of went back and forth a little bit, but I want to do a boot camp and really get some of your online classes. I want to get it out to the masses. And, home service is a pretty big niche. We get roughly 40,000 downloads a month on a good month, sometimes less. It fluctuates depending on the time of year, but a lot of people listen to this. And I think I wouldn't have every book and every single thing you guys published if I didn't believe in the process. So we'll get that going, and we'll just stay in communication and get this on the agenda. But talk to me about the 5 failure levels and how to progress from level 1 to level 5.
Right. Okay. Glad you asked that too. So if the principle basically of Go for No is that yes is the destination, no is how you get there. Can't have yeses without, you want more yeses in your life, you're going to have to hear more no's. It's that simple. So we encourage people to go through the 5 failure levels. We talk about this in the book a little bit. So level 1 is the ability to fail. It's where we all start. Everybody has the ability to fail. Level 2 is the willingness to fail. And that's where most people get after listening to something like this. Hopefully they hear me talk and they say, okay, I'm willing to hear no a little bit more. I'll ask here and there and try to hear no more often. But willingness is only part of the way. It's a great kind of level to get to. I mean, if you can move from just the ability to fail to the willingness to fail. And when we say fail, we're talking about hearing no. We're using that interchangeably because everybody thinks when they get a no that it's failure. So that's why we're using that interchangeably. Level 3, though, is the wantingness to fail. And that's where it can have the biggest impact. That's where it can make the biggest difference in not only your results, but also your mindset. And the perfect example for that is that you go to sleep at night and you say, how was my day? What, you kind of run through your day, what happened? Was this a productive day, or was it just okay? And you think back through everything and you go, wow, I never heard no one time. I never asked. I was in this situation with this customer. I didn't say anything. I was following up with this prospect, didn't ask, just kind of let it go. I just went through the day and I never asked. When you have the wantingness to fail, when you reach level 3, you're I want to hear, you're like Ray Higdon was. I want to hear 20 no's a day. And if you're not that hardcore, that's okay. I say, that saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. A no a day keeps a bad business away. So if you, and it depends, right? I mean, if you're a customer service rep and you're taking 20 opportunity calls a day, I understand you're going to hear a lot more no's, right? So you have to kind of think about these numbers. But if you're not hearing no, then you haven't reached the level of wantingness.
I love it. I tell people I'm a recruiter. I say I'm a recruiter. I love software. We're involved in sales and we have a garage door business. but I always am recruiting. whether it's a busboy at a restaurant, getting a haircut. And the answer for that is not necessarily no. It's oh, I'll keep this in mind. But if there's a way of saying it, to say, look, if you're ever looking for a career, I'd love for you to come in and we help build something together. The only time I think it's bad to ask the question is, should I get a raise? No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
I'm sure a lot of my employees are listening to this going, I'm going to go for no.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. And when they do, though, let's get this set up. So we'll make sure that you have the appropriate answer. When they do ask you for a raise, you go like, listen, congratulations. I am very proud of you for going for no. The answer is no. And but you literally, you showed a lot of courage. So I applaud you and get back to work.
No, it's great.
So yeah, interesting thing about recruiting too. We did a lot of what the training that we did when we launched our company back in the day was recruiting, teaching retailers how to recruit, and having that conversation and really figuring out what's the one thing that's missing in that person's life and matching it up to them and saying, it's interesting. The one thing that's missing in your life is the one thing I can offer you, and people will switch jobs for that, even if everything else is perfect. And it really is.
How do you get to that? How do you? Obviously, that's a lot of question asking. I think you got to the five whys.
So our process was, when you see a candidate that looks good, you do a little reconnaissance, you find out a little bit like what their name is and everything, and you contact them later and try to set up a meeting. So we actually, and not an interview, just literally like a casual meeting, so that you can ask a couple questions and let them know, like, this is not you like begging, like, oh my God, you're amazing, I need you on my team, because that like switches the power dynamic. But right. It's just, you ask a couple questions of them, and then you ask something like, hey, if what's like the thing that's like the worst thing about where you're at now, like usually it's the number one reason is poor relationship with my supervisor. And so then you just paint a quick picture of, well, here's what it's like to work for us. Managers are amazing. You meet with your supervisor every 6 months. We pay based on performance, blah, blah, blah. This could be an amazing opportunity if you'd like to, come in for a formal interview, meaning this is not a done deal. You still have to interview, you still have to drug test, you still have to do whatever, but at least we can start the process.
I like that. I think they call it a pain funnel in Sandler training. And when I did landscaping, my early 20s, I used to ask, right now, what would you say the biggest thing is on your nerves? And the guy goes, well, they come during the morning, Monday through Friday, and they blow, and it gets all over the cars and the people getting out. And I said, oh my gosh, really? You got to be kidding me. And so I said, what if we came on the weekends? And literally, I think I found 3 things that he hated, and I just pounced those things. And he's like, yeah, we'll switch.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times people will make a statement, wow, that's expensive. And we had some sales coaching from Joe Crisara, and he goes, yeah, we understand we're a little bit more on the price side, but it's a better value. So what should we do? Literally, so what should we do?
Yeah.
And what I love about that phrase is, my guys say it all the time now, is, yeah, we realize that. Yeah. So this is why, we're going to answer the first call. We're going to be here for your service, ongoing. We're not going out of business. What should we do?
Yeah.
And I love that. It's a barrier.
Right.
There's a lot of silence involved. And then I'm trying to think of his name. There's another guy that says, man, I'm brain farting, but he's another sales coach. He goes, now really? Because what makes you say that? And what he does is, no matter what. Oh
yeah, is that oh my God, I can't.
I know, it's killing me.
I have his book. Yeah, I have his book.
And one day my general manager had to go up on stage with him, and he goes, and it was so funny. Oh my gosh, I'm brain farting. He's an amazing spokesperson. He used to sell gutters for a while. He used to go on with a GoPro, and anyway, he goes, oh really? What makes you say that? Mm-hmm. And we used to play this game. We need to start doing it more. Is I used to say, ask a question. Whoever asks the questions the best wins today. And no matter what anybody asks you, you got to return it with a question. So it'll be like, we did this the other day, last couple meetings ago, couple Thursday meetings ago, is he said, well, how much is it? And I said, well, it depends on a few things. What makes you ask that question? And it's such a power move to say that, I feel like. And
Absolutely.
I think
well, and what it does too is what I love about it is, I really believe in honesty in sales. And what we know though is that, and this guy, Ron Martin, who wrote a bunch of retail books in the retail industry, he always said buyers were liars, right? Without being disrespectful, but the reality is you're never going to learn the truth. So when you ask somebody what makes you say that, you very quickly cut through all the BS and get to the heart of their objection.
Right.
What makes me say that? Well, any service that says they could do this and this is going to be in the 4 figures a month or something. So that's why I say that. And then you go, oh, okay. So this is a price thing and you're concerned that you're going to get into like a long contract, or maybe you think it's this or that. And now you really are being able to manage those objections, which really is, so much of that is go for no. Like one of the questions we get asked all the time is, well, can you turn a no into a yes? Like, can you take that opportunity? And the answer is absolutely. But that just takes a little bit of skill. The very first step in the process with go for no that we try to do is, especially when it comes to like prospecting type things, is we keep people from just getting that no and turning and running, or hanging up. Like, I gotta know. Like, slow down, calm down. Now think about your response and very carefully, calmly think about what your next move is. That's step one. And then you can manage that. You have the opportunity to manage that no.
Yeah, I think isolating the objections is a great thing. And what I find is, even if they say, I need to talk to my husband or I need to talk to my wife, the answer to that question is, oh, that makes sense. That's exactly what I would do before I make a financial decision like this. And I respect that. What do you think she's going to say? It's the same question as, oh, really, what makes you say that? It's what do you think she's going to say?
Right.
Well, she's going to say it's a lot more than we had budgeted for something. Like, okay, well, that's why we have, and then you're still isolating the objection.
My favorite is and if like she was or he was completely on board, would you go ahead?
And I'll tell you, the next secret is you book the appointment when he or she's there. If you don't have both decision makers there, is you say, when is your wife going to be home? Why don't I just swing back here? And the nice thing is we do have options, and I want to make sure we get the right option for you, because we do have the MacGyver special. I don't like, we call it sometimes we call it a Band-Aid fix. There's a good book right here that he tells us what to call it. Maximum Influence is instead of more economical. We've got a more economical solution.
Yeah, that's a great, yes.
And then he says, instead of the expensive one, call it top of the line.
So it's interesting, Tommy, that we're talking about all this, because here's the thing, like this to me, like some of this, I know people listening are like, some of this is advanced. Like some of this is advanced salesmanship. And the only way, and this is why I'm such a proponent of like the failure way to success mindset, and we were still on the wanting this to fail here, is that unless you're willing to try and fail on these things, it's the only way to learn. Like people hesitate and they think like, I don't have the right words and I'm not skilled enough to do these things. You've got to get out there and you've got to practice. And yeah, you might say the MacGyver fix, right? Which I think is actually kind of hilarious, but it's not, what you meant to say. But people have got to give themselves permission to fail. When they do that and they allow themselves the permission to fail, then they can start trying things with customers. They can start trying things with prospects on the phone. And that's how you get better. That's how you get good.
I've been really talking to my staff, in particular the senior staff, about delegation. And a lot of them tend to say, well, if I can't do it, this is the small mindset. This is the Michael Gerber thing of just, if I don't do it, it won't be done right. And I say this is the new thing I came up with because I just got a dog. I don't have kids yet. I want kids, but I said, you guys have kids. A lot of them do have kids. And I said, that'd be much easier to do their homework for them. And it'd be much easier to keep them on the back of your bicycle. But I know one thing about you guys. You want them to be better than you. And you're going to be patient. You're going to sit down and you're going to work through the problems together. You're going to try to make them stronger. When you teach them how to ride a bike, I guarantee you, when you take those training wheels off, they're going to fall. You're going to give them elbow pads and knee pads and the best helmet possible. But I'll tell you this, the more they fall, the more they get back up, and they won't fall again because you're going to teach them the right way. As they continue to make these mistakes, and I said too often, as a leader, as a coach, we tend to say, why in the hell did they mess that up? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if we were patient, like they were our kids, we'd go, yeah, you made a mistake, but let's not make the same mistake twice. And I always go for failure. I tell people, they go, what's your secret to success? And I said, failure is I've failed every which way from Sunday. But the thing is, I don't try to make the same mistakes twice. Sure. And I'm the first one to ask for direction. This morning when I talked to these guys, I go, 20 of you guys are going home. The biggest mistake I see is you're not willing to raise your hand and say, I need more help. Because we always need help. And I'm the first one to ask for help or read a book or go ask a consultant. And I think that's kind of my blessing and the curse is, I do ask for a lot of advice all the time. And I like to bounce things off of people. I keep like 5 people near me to just bounce things off of. And I remember, this is a quick story. I was a busboy at Cheesecake Factory, and I won 3 of the football pools where you pick the teams, who's going to win. And these guys go, you barely watch football. How the hell do you win every single time? And I go, there was 3 guys I'd always call. One of them was my uncle, and I'd ask them I'd go through it with them. And I picked whoever had the most. I'd put a check next to the one that they said the most. And I'd win all the time. And it's people ask you, what's your success? I say, it's literally asking questions around smarter people,
That's awesome. Yeah. That's literally, you invented Phone a Friend, right? Before for the Millionaire Game Show, right?
Yeah.
When somebody calls and hopefully you've called the smartest friend or family member on that particular topic. Right?
What's his name? He was on, it starts with an R.
Regis.
Yes. Yeah, that was a great, that's a great show. I used to love that. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yep.
So, we kind of touched upon it, but how can you tell if a potential customer's no is a hard, firm no, or if there's room to change their mind?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a go for no standpoint, like if you have someone that is qualified. So one of the ways that you can use go for no is just to quickly qualify people, right? So if you sell security systems and if you sell security systems and you are cold calling and you get somebody who lives in an apartment building, and you say, hey, I'm calling with ABC Security and we want to set you up and blah, blah, blah. No amount of selling is going to have that person buy a security system in the apartment building where they've got great security. I live in a high rise, so that's kind of the situation for us. That's why I bring that up. So that's easy disqualification. But let's say you're calling and you get a homeowner out in wherever and they don't have a security system and they need one. Then the question is, when will they eventually decide? And this is such a huge piece of go for no, which is sticking around, follow up, depending on your business model, is follow up with people who aren't ready yet. And a lot of times you just need to own real estate in people's minds long enough. They need to see a marketing message or 2 come through, right? They're unsure. They want to read the reviews. They want to read the testimonials. They want to get comfortable. And eventually, though, since you've even planted the seed, now at this point, it's like they're going to probably get a security system. The question will be, will you be there when they finally go like, fine, we'll do it? Have you made it attractive enough? Have you followed up? So the answer is absolutely. And that is all in the follow-up.
This is a ladder I just drew on the back of my piece of paper. And there's a buyer's ladder. If you put buy at the top and not buy at the bottom, you got to understand what prong they're on and how to get them to go up the steps. And a lot of it is the buying cycle. Is I always say Facebook's a great source of marketing, but it gets a lot higher. First, it's product knowledge, and the turnaround time is nothing like Google. Google's like instant. Hey, I need something done. You're building demand with Facebook. It's almost like, and it's used a lot too for branding. But I think, I met a really, really smart guy, one of my clients. He spends about $1 million a year with us for garage doors. And I went out to dinner with him, and he goes, Tommy, in sales, your job is to teach your employees where clients are at in the buyer cycle and be able to move them up fast through that cycle. Or the worst is when you don't get a no, it's a maybe. I'd rather have a hard no or not now and then just create a drip system than to spend all the time with maybes. So one of the things that Joe had taught us is the right to rescind our bid if they're not willing to do it, because quite honestly, I've had 4 price increases in the last, 4 months?
Oh, so I bet.
This bid is only good for 15 days and put scarcity in it. Are you familiar with Robert Cialdini? He wrote the book Influence.
Absolutely. Yeah. Scarcity. And that is a great strategy. And these days with costs, it's 100% true. I mean, costs are skyrocketing.
I mean, it's definitely not one of those things that I'm like, oh, well, like literally now we're like, this is only good for this much time because this vibrates like your phone. Tara was texting me about the vans because there's a huge supply chain issue with microchips. And right now we had to order 350 droids. The vehicles right now that they're not there. And so she's like, would you take a vehicle with side windows, like one of the big express vans? And I'm like, the fact is I might have to take it. It kind of sucks, but it's interesting now because there's true supply chain issues, and a lot of people do things that, especially maybe home service, that maybe retail doesn't do. Like of course, retail coupons expire, but for the most part, home service is just treated differently. And I always ask people, why? Why are you? Let's make a deal. I had a technician of mine that used to always say out the door, and I'm like, quit saying out the door. Like, we got to pay taxes. Why do you just remove that phrase from your? Like, maybe you needed to get it done one time where a guy said, hey, can you do that price out the door? But why did you stick it on everything?
Right.
Kind of buddy. Right. I had a guy, Larry Verdon, asks, what's the transition from no to yes, and how many no's to get that yes? And I think that's more of a trial and error thing, but what is your take on that?
Yeah, well, it probably takes a lot more no's than I think people realize. And you just have to make a decision, like what your business model is and if you're willing to stick it out to go through those no's in order to get to the yes. And sometimes you literally can do that on the phone with somebody, right? Who you go through, you ask good questions, you review what they told you, you make a recommendation based on everything you told me. I think you should do this. And then they kind of go back and forth. And then you ask a couple other questions and they go like, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem like something I can do. And then you make another recommendation and you make another suggestion and, hey, costs are going up and you probably want to do this before the summer. Or whatever your process is, you're going to get a lot of no and a lot of hesitation. It comes back to being that advocate for that customer. This kind of question reminded me too about the 4th failure level, which is
4 and 5.
We stopped on 4. so we were on 5 or on 3, which is wanting this. So level 4 is about failing bigger and faster. And this has to do with going for no fast. So a lot of qualification, right? Taking calls. If this person is qualified, keep going. If they're not, let them go quickly. And getting those big, scary no's. Every business has the opportunity to go after the best neighborhood in the entire city. Why not serve the customers who have the money to spend and they want excellence and all of that? Or whatever the case may be, but those seem scarier. Those prospects seem harder to get, or they're in with the competition or whatever. So we call those going after big no's.
Going after the big no. I think that's kind of like asking for a raise. I think that's like someone going out there. You know what's crazy is it's true that asking. I've gotten some yeses that I never thought possible. I mean, I make it a point that back in the day before I was on Southwest, I'd always ask, "Do you happen to have any upgrades to first class?" I get them all the time. Do you have any? I have a buddy of mine, Johnny. He asks every time at the hotel front desk, "Do you have any upgrades for suites?" And they say, "Yeah, you're a valued client. We actually do have an opening." We get upgrades all the time. I mean, when we used to travel more. And I'm like, you just never know. That's a great way of just asking for something that maybe you wouldn't have normally asked for before.
100%. That's just a great way to practice. I do that all the time too. I love it. I mean, to me, it's just fun. In fact, there was a guy named Leo Quinn who he did it wasn't this past summer. I think it was the summer of 2019. He did the summer of 1,000 no's. And every day he was trying to get a no. It was like July, August, and September or something. And he got to 1,000. I talked to him like on the last day. He literally got it under the wire. And it was everything that you can imagine. There was some guys doing like asphalt repair out on the street. And he was like, hey, one of his no's was, "Hey, will you guys come do my driveway?" And they were like, "Yeah, but you have to have this certain kind of beer." And he was like, "No, forget it." So it kind of fell apart, but it was just like funny no's. I mean, he was going for no, like in every kind of situation you can imagine. And he got them, and he got a lot of yeses.
You know what? One of the coolest go for no I can think of right now for home service people that are listening is tell your technicians and your employees to go out there and ask for reviews and actually ask for the reviews. And the difference is the way that I explain a review is I say, listen, because I used to be a server and a bartender. I say, listen, the boss is having a competition. We get to go to dinner with them next week, and we got some gift cards. So I always have fun things going on for reviews. And it would really mean a lot to me personally if you mention my name, because we are having a competition. And I'm a competitive guy. I like to win. And when I used to do that, when I served tables, I'd always get them from everybody. And no one cares about leaving a review for the company. You care about the individual. So the difference with the go for no of it is first I'm going to ask for one on Google. Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to ask for a testimonial on Facebook. Then I'm going to ask for one on Nextdoor. Then I'm going to ask for one on Yelp. Then I'm going to have you go to the BBB. And eventually you're going to say, dude, no, I'm done. I've already done enough. But you can actually practice it just on the review side. I've always said, why get one review per customer? Why not get 10? Well, why not get them started in the beginning? Say, am I doing a good job? Am I giving you 5 out of 5 service? And I always say 5 out of 5 service because there's 5 stars on everything.
Yeah, I think that's genius. And I mean, my best advice, if you have a home service business and you go back to the beginning of your entire process, everything that you do in your business, and look for the go for no moments in everything that you do from the very beginning, from the time that a marketing message is seen to somebody calls and just asks like, hey, what's the deal? Or sends in an online inquiry, whatever, is what are all of those go for no moments and how well are we executing on those? Because if you really want to, I mean, this doesn't increase your costs at all. We're not talking about hiring more people. You don't have to buy an extra building. You don't have to buy an extra truck. This is literally taking the stuff that you're doing now and just saying, let's execute on these a little bit better at the moments. So the review is a perfect example. You want to raise your average ticket. You probably have some kind of great valuable feature that needs to be upgraded. So in that moment, it's, hey, another feature that people love is XYZ. Would you like to go ahead and add that on while we're doing the main service? And so these 2 or 3 go for no moments, these behaviors well executed can increase your revenue, I don't know, 10, 20, 50%. And you didn't spend a dime doing it.
Well, there's 2 trains of thoughts that make me think of right now. Is first of all, in this, it's a good book. Bob Pfeiffer says, double your profits in 6 months or less. He explained, call every one of the people you work with, call your cable company, call your alarm company and say, look, I want 10% off. Things are whatever. Like you ask, and believe it or not, sometimes you shall receive a lot of the time. Ask your suppliers. They need to do a little bit better. So not only increasing revenue, but one of the things we make a lot of money on, like a lot of money, is, have you ever thought about replacing this? Because it's a non-insulated door. If you got a brand new opener, I'm still going to ask you, do you want a new opener with some of the bells and whistles and technology? Unless you've got the one that I'm talking about. A lot of people are like, look, if you're an air conditioning company and you're not talking about air quality, you're crazy, especially with COVID. There's so many opportunities if you really write down. You know what I do? I ask everybody for a testimonial. I say, would you mind? What I do, here's what I do. Andrea, I'll leave you a video testimonial. I love your book so much. I'm going to get this. I'm going to talk all about the book. I'm going to make you look like $1 million. And what I'd ask for is you put my video on your site just with a link to A1 Garage Doors. So I'll put a little paragraph about how much I love your book. And just what I'm doing is I'm building links. I got one from my bank, Western State Bank, put it on their website of me talking about how much I love our relationship. And that's a great way. There's so many things, if you really think about it, to go for no. I'm just giving some ideas out there.
That is so true. And I love that. And so, yeah, you can absolutely, go for no in marketing, like go for no with those kind of partnerships with the other businesses and all of that. And funny that you talked about asking for discount. I love doing that. It's just kind of fun. And so literally I was on the phone with AT&T and I was switching something up a couple months ago. And then at the end of the call, she's like, okay, well, was it, did I solve your problem to your satisfaction, everything? And I said, yeah, just before we hang up, I said, is there like any other discount that I need to know about? She goes, well, yeah, I can give you $20 off just this month. I said, why not? Go for it.
If I'm at the video store, if I'm at a store buying a phone, I'm always like, can you throw in this screen cover if I buy the phone today? And or I can come back another day. I don't really need it right now. You'll get it. It's like, I remember I told this story last week as I was 5 years old and my dad brings me to a garage sale and there was a CB radio and it was $20 and it had a piece of Scotch tape and my dad saw me pull up the antenna and it was used. But we walked away and I walked to the car and he could kind of tell I had my head down and he goes, Tommy, come over here. And I said, what, Dad? And he goes, here. And he pulls out $5. And he goes, go get that CB radio. And I said, okay, I need $15 more. And I was real happy. And he goes, no. You're going to go get it for $5. And I said, Dad, the price tag on it says $20. And he goes, just do me a favor. Walk up to her and say, would you take $5 for it, and point at me? So I'm walking up there real slow. I was really worried. And I go, ma'am, I was just wondering, would you take $5 for the CB radio? My dad was wondering if you take that. And he's waving at her from there. And she goes, absolutely. She sold it to me for $5. That was my first negotiation. And I'll never forget that story. I should tell my dad about that later.
Beautifully done. I love it. And that is, so you're learning go for no at a young age.
The thing is you're really right, is ask all the time. It's all the time. People ask, and most of the time you get a yes. Not in everything, but there's a nice way of asking. I'll tell you my problem is, like when I was in my dating days in high school, or even in the early 20s, I used to wait for eye contact and basically ensure myself a yes because you saw the other person was interested, instead of just going out there and putting myself on the line of but there's something, and it wasn't really like I never really thought a lot about like maybe I'm not good enough or anything like that. That's not what was going through my mind. But the fear of rejection was super real. So I was really safe, and I'm like, ooh, I got the eye and a smile. Now I know I'm good. And I think I probably still have a lot of that. Obviously it's not the same as it was in that regard, but it's how do you live in that uncomfortable zone? I think it's a muscle, but how do you see yourself? You've trained so many people. How do you get out of that comfort level?
Because just the more you do it, the better you get. That's all there is to it. And you get used to the fact that, this is like just true in all entrepreneurship. I always say that being an entrepreneur is like, I don't love turbulence on airplanes. I'm not great with it. I'm certainly not great with it when it's like really bad. I start freaking out. And, but when you get on and you're on an airplane, there's always a little bit of it. And so there's always this like underlying little bit of turbulence. And eventually what I've learned is after flying, so many times, you just kind of settle in and you go like, okay, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be a little. And that is what being an entrepreneur is like. There's always this underlying turbulence. Every now and then, boom, you get some pocket of air, your drink goes flying. You didn't expect it. Then things calm down. That's what it is. But you're just constantly used to that. That underlying fear and uncertainty. And I think the more that you practice Go for No, the more that you do it, the fact that we're wired to not get rejected, you start to realize, you know what, I'm not going to die. I'm safe doing this. And you start seeing enough results down the line. 2 results. 1, literal results. You make more money, you get things, etc. The girl of your dreams says yes to you, whatever. But also your confidence starts to build. And my favorite definition of confidence is from Jack Canfield, who we interviewed for our Go for No movie. And he said, building of self-confidence is the successfully surviving of a risk. So when you survive enough of these personal risks, that is how your self-confidence builds. And so that's really how your comfort zone ends up growing, to where you go like, wow, I used to like really get nervous before, asking somebody this or before suggesting the upgrade to the customer. And now I don't even get phased, like not at all. So it's just doing it enough.
I told, I've got this on the wall. I said, you guys know my quote on the wall, life begins. I got it right here. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Right where your comfort zone stops is when the real life begins. So think outside of the box. I've got a guy that I work with. His name's Lenny Gray. He's the door-to-door millionaire. He wrote a couple of books. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, I'd like to go door knocking one day with you. And he goes, get out of here. And everybody's like, yeah, right. And I went, and I got to tell you, I do a lot of things, but door knocking, I remember inviting my neighbors to a get together, and they look at me and I go, I'm just a neighbor. I'm just inviting you I'm having a party. But we went and rejection after rejection after rejection and he's like, dude, no big deal. He's like, whatever. And it's just, I'd recommend, and I've never done this. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but door knocking was interesting. Or I don't know how people do it, but standing on a corner and asking for money, that would be the ultimate experience of like, if you wanted to do a documentary, that's tough. Is how I was like, and I've given a lot of money, $5 here. A lot of times I'll reach into my bag of whatever I just got and give them a burger or something. But that's some serious rejection. I want to ask you some closing questions, but I really want to go through this with you. Me and you'll get on the phone and we'll talk about doing some fun things for the group on Facebook and really getting involved on your online platform. You've got a lot of other opportunities to really get people into this and really make them accountable to it. So first of all, how do we get a hold of you if we want to reach out?
Well, I'm well branded, Tommy. So it's Go for No. You type in Go for No, like at Go for No. I'm at Go for No on Twitter. I'm at Go for No on Instagram. You type in Go for No on Google, you will absolutely find me.
Okay. And give me 3 books, random books that you recommend. Can't be Michael Gerber. What's really a good book is you might know of it. I think you will. The Consistency Chain.
Yes.
Yes. George and Jim are great guys.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 books. Well, I'll tell you, one of the books that tremendously helped me that was really the emotional mindset thing that I needed for Go for No was called The 4 Agreements. So that is, for your listeners, I'm just warning them. It's very touchy-feely, woo-woo kind of stuff. It's not businessy, but that's if you're like really have a problem with taking no personally and communication and the soft skills part of Go for No, I would highly recommend that book.
Okay. That's one.
Yeah. What else? Now, this could just be like all of my favorite.
It could be the Bible. Anything you want, just something that's near and dear to you. That it could be, it could be what is it? The 5 love languages. I don't, whatever you think.
So another really cool book is Ask for More. I just recently read that. That's from Alexandra Carter, and it's a negotiation book. Really good.
I love that. It just sounds cool.
Yeah. And so she kind of comes at things. She's a Columbia Law professor. She's super smart. She comes at things like with kind of the whole lawyer mindset, but it's very readable. Like it's not a stuffy textbook at all. And it's really about kind of opening dialogue when you're having to negotiate. And I think for people who have to do business negotiations, it would be really helpful as well. So that's another one that I just read that I love. And what else am I reading? I'm reading the new book from Ryan Holiday about Stoicism, and I can't remember what it's called.
He's great. Yeah. He's a smart dude that talks a lot about just kind of getting involved with like the media and how to pick stuff. It's crazy some of the stuff I've read from him. I was going to tell you, if you get a chance, this guy, Steve Sims, he came on the podcast about a year ago, maybe more, a year and a half ago. It's called Blue Fishing.
Yeah.
And here's what you need to do. You need to read it, and then you need to call me. And I want to see what you think of it. It was a cool book that was given to me years ago. And I think you'll really dig it. Blue Fishing.
Fishing, I-N-G. Okay.
Yep. Fishing, Blue Fishing. Yeah, we're definitely going to. Oh, by the way, some people have said they've already bought the book, which is great. You did. We're going to do something special for the listeners. I think you and Gianni had talked about as far as how to get the book.
Yes. So at our website, we have a coupon code that from you, because you were like, Andrea, help out my listeners. So
I asked you.
You asked. And
I asked you to be on the podcast, and look where we are.
We got you got all kinds of yeses though. So A1G is the coupon code.
A1G.
Yeah.
A1G. Remember that, guys.
And
so how many comes in a case of books? I don't even remember how many I bought.
96 per case.
And what did I buy?
You bought 2 cases.
So I bought a couple hundred books because look, if I bought 200, you should at least buy one.
Would you would you like to get a 3rd case?
See, you know what? I probably will.
Okay.
That wasn't a no. It was a no. It was a yes, just not today.
All right, that's fine.
And then the last thing I asked is maybe we missed something along the way. I'm sure there's a million things, but I kind of like to leave it up to whoever I have on, the guest speaker, to finish with a final thought, maybe a take action now or whatever it might be that you feel like we might have not talked enough about.
Well, we didn't, and this is something that we'll get into deep on the training with that workbook that you had in your hand, which is setting no goals. So we're not even going to go into that because that's way too.
But we're gonna do this.
Yeah,
we're gonna go for
that workbook. I would just suggest that people do a little assessment of their customer service reps, who, their salespeople, everybody who is interfacing with customers and prospects, and get everybody to create a no awareness at first. Like, are we hearing no? Are we doing everything we can to avoid no, or are we asking enough questions? So start with the no awareness just to be mindful of it, and then start practicing. And then the final kind of leadership concept is we got to be celebrating people who try and get a no, not just always. We love celebrating the results. Yes, pays the bills, no doubt, but celebrate even when somebody tries something and they fail or they get a no.
I just want to add one thing. I've got a consultant that came in a couple weeks ago, and he celebrates when there's mistakes because it's an opportunity to fix the process. And I got to tell you, he specializes in lean manufacturing. And he goes, it's the process that breaks the outcome. So when we find something, like, give a gift card to the employees that find poke holes and problems. So I think you're absolutely right. We should celebrate the no's. And we're going to figure this out with you, Andrea. Thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Yes.
I could do this for days. This is like, I get a lot out of this, and I get to ask my questions, and this is like therapy for me. So I appreciate you being on, and then we're going to set all this up. I'll definitely be in touch with you to get as much from this as possible. I want the listeners to get a lot more too.
Awesome. Thanks, Tommy.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to hit this button.